That game was rough. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Grubauer played his heart out. Grubauer played incredible. It was a fantastic day from Philip Grubauer. I just, yeah, it was just it was just rough everywhere else. Um, you know, it's you get you get the performance from your goalie. I felt that the Kraken didn't do a good job of supporting him. Defensively, I guess they were okay, but they certainly didn't do a good enough job offensively. You don't take advantage of those two power plays, that chances that you get in the third period. Obviously, you have the major penalty, which did an okay job killing off the major, right? I mean, it wasn't it could have been a lot worse. Let's put it that way. I've seen majors go a lot worse than that one. Um, but yeah, it was just, I don't know. I just felt like Grubauer played his heart out. Grubauer did everything that he could, and the team around him just kind of wasn't there tonight. They felt panicked in late. They weren't ever able to get anything going. They never really felt like a threat. They felt like a threat at the beginning of the third period, and then they lost it when the Capitals had that last power play. And they just felt like they were playing behind the game that rest of that time. I didn't like the decision around how they pulled Grubauer. I thought that was odd. Um, it seemed late to pull him, and then I don't know. I just felt like they already had control in the zone like 30 seconds prior. Could have done it then. You could have done it at the offensive zone faceoff with 3 minutes left, or at least had him well out so that if you win that faceoff, which they ultimately did, he just immediately books it to the bench, and you've got a lot more time. 5-on-6. When it was 5-on-6, didn't feel like Burakovsky got a lot of help there. That led to that first empty net goal for Lars Eller. I don't know. There was just some things up. There was just some things that happened in this one that just kind of made me question what the Kraken were doing. Um, and yeah, I mean they felt sleepy in the first period. They didn't feel like they were totally there for that either. I don't know. They felt very off tonight. Um, and certainly for this being a road game, like they're 8-1-1 on the road coming into this game. This team looked like any other team on the road. They didn't look like the road warriors that they are. Um, you get outshot massively. I mean, massively outshot in this game, really, certainly through the first two periods. Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird night. It was a really weird night for everybody but Philip Grubauer. Philip Grubauer was insane. He made so many saves, so many sequences of saves to really keep him in it. He stopped breakaways. He stopped rebounds that were knocked at him. I really felt like he did a good job. And the two goals against him, one of them goes off of Oleksiak's skate, so it's kind of hard there. And then the other one, the first goal, uh, it rides up his body. He gets a piece of it. It just rides up his body and over his shoulder. Probably he probably wants to have that one back, but it's not like the worst goal in the world that we've seen. So, but like I said, otherwise, I mean, Philip Grubauer made so many saves. Yeah, he made 34 saves. You can't say anything against that, right? And it doesn't look like it. Looking over here at the comment section, Brian kicking us off with Gru was great. You love to see it. You do love to see it. I love a good Philip Grubauer performance. Sergeant Pickles, that was less fun than I expected. Yeah, it just, like I said, it didn't feel like the Kraken, I guess is what I've been working towards this whole time. It just didn't feel like the Kraken in this one. Hunter, 4-1 loss is an insult to how well Gru played in this game. F those refs. The ref stuff was a little weird. I don't know. They were like calling some stuff so like obvious when it was just kind of like, I don't know that there was really that much there. And then there was other times where they were totally swallowing their whistles on cross checks, the potential thrown puck at the end. I don't know that puck was really thrown. I know Edzo would disagree with me. But it was not consistent. And the one thing you want from officiating is consistency. And I don't feel like we got that tonight. I'll probably wait a little while longer before I get into the Jamie Oleksiak situation. But just as far as the penalties that were actually called, I felt like there wasn't a ton of consistency from the refs tonight. And that's just, it's always frustrating for, regardless of which team you're rooting for, whether your team wins or loses, you just want consistency from an officiating crew. Walt with the refs again. That's all I'll say. Yeah, it wasn't the best game in the world. Tina, well, we definitely know 2 of those goals weren't Gru's fault. I would argue, yeah, obviously the 2 empty net ones, but I would argue that the Oleksiak one is also not on him because Oleksiak could be clearing that guy out of the net. He's got Schultz there also in front of him. I put on the Discord like how many Kraken does it take to freeze a puck because it just felt like if Grubauer can't get on top of that, one of his defensemen has to get on top of it, and instead all of a sudden there's just two Capitals players right in his crease, right in his face. It was just a weird defensive breakdown there. The other one that he gets just a little bit of the piece of it. Like I said, he'd want that one back, I'm sure. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, he faced 38 shots, or he faced 36 of the 38 shots from the Capitals tonight, and he only let in one goal. That was his fault. It's a really good performance, and it's just sad because Grubauer has been able to turn in good performances, and it just feels like the nights that Grubauer is on, like really on, like tonight, where he's just stopping everything. The Kraken just can't manage to put a good game together in front of him, and that's it. It's weird. I mean, we had the Vegas game not that long ago, his return from injury against Vegas. That was the first time that it felt like the Kraken played solid in front of Philip Grubauer since the team has existed. Like all through last year, we know what that was like. But even in the starts Gru has had this year, I haven't felt that the team has been the Seattle Kraken that have been winners and on these big win streaks in front of him. And that just kind of continued tonight. And that's just it's just weird to me that the team doesn't play well in front of their number one goalie, even when he's playing well. Like, I just don't get it. I don't know what's going on there. Um, Let's see. Stratic, Gru deserved better. At least the Flames also lost. That's something. Tina, team's just got to play in front of him. Exactly. Dalek, it's so tiring, man. It's so tiring watching the Kraken defensemen do this every week. I don't even care about the refs, man. There's just zero discipline on the blue line. And then jumping down to more from the Dalek here. They make stupid penalties every freaking week. Avoidable stupid penalties. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. We could talk about the Oleksiak thing here, because I see other people referencing the officiating and everything. When it comes to the Oleksiak situation, um, I get why they gave him the game. I understand that call was a check to the head. The rule book is very clear. Whether there's intent or not, you are responsible for your body and for your stick at all times. That's just it. I understand the argument that could be made that, look, he's taller, so his elbow, his shoulder, whatever, is more at head height of other players. Zdeno Chara talked about how hard that was to adjust to in the NHL, but that ultimately, you just, as a taller player, you have to make those adjustments. And sometimes situations like this just happen because of it. Obviously, there's no ill will. I don't for a second believe that Jamie Oleksiak wanted to check that Capital player to the head like that. But you can't write rules for the, three players that are 6'7" plus, right, in league history. You just can't do it. And so it's just one of those unfortunate situations, but you got to call it the way the rule book is written. And the rule book is written that is a big time penalty. I don't know that he'll be suspended for it because I think it's pretty clear that there isn't a lot of intent. I don't know what his history is. That's really what'll come into play. But given that it wasn't like he went out of his way to totally check him to the head, I don't know that there's going to be a suspension, or if it is, it should be pretty minimal. Like I said, a lot of that when it comes to the NHL's, officiating, Department of Player Safety, a lot of that comes down to history, and they almost just scale everything based off of history. If it's your first offense in the last couple of years, they'll look past it. If it's your second one, they'll give you a game or two. If you've had like 3 instances in the last 3 seasons, they start slapping you with bigger suspensions. I don't know what his last couple years history is. I don't believe he was in any situations last year, so that obviously bodes well for him. But I understand why the crew and Toronto and everybody involved in that made the decision that they made. I think that's okay. It's just an unfortunate one. Like I said, at the end of the day, though, you are responsible for your own body. Larson took his like token terrible penalty. I'm wearing the jersey. He got the goal. That was awesome in the first period, but like, stop taking bad penalties. that was a situation that the Capitals were fumbling all on their own. Didn't need to be taking that penalty there. I don't know. There was just it's just rough. Um, but yes, discipline I still think is the number one problem with this team. The number one thing keep holding the Kraken back, keeping them from winning the games that they're not winning is discipline. I think you're onto something there, Dalek. Um, Walt Grubauer is definitely the man. That's why he's getting paid. Yeah, I mean when he's playing like this, it's good. George officiating sucked, but Oleksiak and Co hung Grubauer out to dry. I agree. I mean they were not solid defensively in front of him. It's just the way it happens. And yeah, and then I should also, I guess, take a minute to mention that this is thanks everybody for joining us for ECH Post Game Live presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall, and make mention of the fact that RJ's still not feeling well. And so won't be joining us tonight. So everybody can wish RJ well wishes in the comment section. I just wanted to wait until the numbers got up a little bit because I kicked things off pretty fast after the end of the game on this one. So I wanted to wait until more people were here to just to kind of let everybody know that. But definitely hope RJ gets better soon. Let's see. Gregory Oleksiak shaking my damn head. I know. It's just an unfortunate situation. Sergeant Pickles, let's get this over with. I know. That's why I started. So fast. Tina honestly thought the major was pretty good, all things considered. I agree. I thought that they did a fantastic job on that. Knowing what we know about the PK, we know how the struggles that the Kraken have had these last little bit. I thought they handled that situation very, very well. Majors can be very, very difficult, and they did it. I mean, they only allowed the one goal. Only allowed one goal on 4 power play chances for the Capitals. Again, you know, if you're going to be an undisciplined team, you got to expect that the other team's going to have power plays. You better have a good PK. They haven't in a while, but tonight the PK showed up. I think having Morgan Geekie back is a big deal. I think that matters a lot for them. Um, but that's just the way it goes. Let's see, Waltz. That last Gord penalty was BS. Like nobody there was holding. What the heck was that? Yeah, I didn't think that there was holding. I thought there was Geeky slashed him. Like Geeky, you could easily call a slash or a hook on Morgan Geeky there if you go back and look at it. Geeky's stick comes flying in on the guy's hands and it hits him right on his hand. So I thought all along that's what the penalty was. But then he makes the call of a hold, and I'm with Enzo on the broadcast. Like, what hold? What is he talking about? I don't even think he got the right player. I don't think Gord was the right player. I think they just saw the 7 as the second number on the jersey because Geeky's 67 and Gord's 37, and I just think he's called the wrong player. But maybe that's just me. Let's see. Got a super chat down here. Let me scroll down to it. Thank you very much for the super chat, Jules. Make sure to like the stream, guys, win or lose. That's right. If you can all like the stream, really helps us out, helps people find the channel, helps people find these post-game lives. But yeah, I thought that situation was not great for sure, Walt. I am right there with you. It was a BS penalty to call holding, and there was no holding. And like I said, I don't even think that if there, there was a penalty there, it wasn't holding, but that penalty wasn't even on Gord. So I don't know what the refs were doing there. That one, I will definitely say the refs just messed it up. There's no way around that one. Stratic, I might get impeached from my Daniel Sprong fan club presidency for this, but it felt like they're playing Sprong too much tonight. Interesting. So I've got the stats here. They played him 12:01 tonight, which is second to last amongst forward. Well, Carson Kuhlman only got 4 minutes, so I can't say that. But only Ryan Donato, of the players who actually like kind of played regularly in this one, played fewer minutes than Daniel Sprong. I don't know. I don't think that there was that that we can say that about tonight. He obviously had a decent amount of power play time. You could argue that somebody like Andre Burakovsky should be having more power play time than Daniel Sprong, which was not the case today, or Bjorkstrand. So maybe on the power play, I can agree with you there. But otherwise, I mean, he's a winger on the fourth line, and he got winger on the fourth line minutes from the team tonight. I just don't think he was very effective tonight. He did not show up for the revenge game against his former team. Let's say that. Edward, I don't want to hear another word from anyone anywhere about Grubauer being a bad goalie. Agreed, Edward. I'm right there with you there. Schultz, need to shake things up somehow, call someone up from Coachella Valley, anything to breathe a bit of life into the team. If Oleksiak gets suspended, maybe Evans. Yeah, like I said, we'll wait and see what the situation is with Oleksiak. You do always have Cale Fleury, who was kind of hit or miss in the games that he's already filled in. You have Cale Fleury there. I still think in this lead up to, the opening of the arena for Coachella Valley next weekend and all of that kind of stuff, or a week from this weekend, I don't know that they're going to call up Riker Evans. I still feel like any sort of Riker Evans call up would happen later in the year. But I agree, things need to shake up. I think it's clear now. You've had a couple games, things don't look good. The team tonight really didn't look good. You got to shake things up offensively, move wingers around, break up, Beniers and Eberle maybe, get Yanni Gord into a top 6 role, maybe just something like that, just to try to spark something, because I know that they did that leading into this one. It did not work. I would not go back to the line combinations that they had for this game. I thought it was pretty bad. It felt like watching last season's Kraken. Too many passes, no cohesion, lots of things made zero sense from the Dalek there. Yeah, first period they were tired, and they weren't playing really well. And then at the end of that third period, like I said, they were panicked. They weren't stopping to think. They were misplaying pucks in their own zone. They were just rushing passes before they really ever picked their heads up. They weren't playing like a team that, by all accounts, I mean, there was 5 minutes left. There was a slightly over 5 minutes left, and there was just this incident where it was just so, "What are you doing?" And I just don't get it. I don't know why they were so panicked. I mean, you just played this team a week ago, and you came back in the third period to tie it, and you won in overtime. Like, you can do that against this team. This team is worse than you. I'm sorry. On paper, this Capitals team is worse than the Kraken. And you got the goaltending performance you needed from Grubauer. I just felt like that was the time for the timeout when the team was clearly struggling. They were playing behind the play. They were not being able to calm things down at all after they killed that last penalty. First stoppage, if I'm the coach, I'm calling a timeout there, because it's still only a 1-goal game, and I'm taking that time to calm everybody down, recenter them, refocus them, and come up with a strategy so everybody's on the same page for pulling the goaltender. We're going to pull him at this time. This is what we're looking for. If we see it around this, between this time and this time, he's gone. Grubauer, no. If you start seeing that, get ready, make your move, that kind of stuff. I felt that there should have been a timeout much earlier in the third period. There was no point in doing it after that first empty net goal. I thought that was kind of a wasted opportunity of that resource. I think it should have happened sooner in the third period, when the team was really, really struggling. Clearly, like, they were visibly struggling to try to get anything together to try to get back in the game. That's when I would have called a timeout. Jules Grubauer put all he could into that game. This losing streak could be good for the Kraken, make them realize they need to practice more, work harder for wins. Yeah, I mean, they had lots of canceled practices, all those wins, right? But I just think something needs to change. Something needs to shake up for them just a little bit. Try to get them going. Another super chat down here. Let me scroll down. Thank you so much. Is it time? This super chat is from Schultz82. Is it time to try a triple B line? Yes, let's try it. Let's go for it. We've wanted this from the beginning, right? Killer Bees. Let's see. Matty Beniers centering, Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand. I am totally here for it. I am 1,000% here for it. I really, really want that. That would be fantastic. I think that is definitely the time. And thank you for the super chat. Tina, yeah, 13 shots through 2 periods. Is the lowest we've had over 2. Yeah, they needed the offense was not getting anything going at all tonight. Rebecca, I hope Grubauer steals the Davy Jones hat and sleeps with it tonight, knowing he deserved a W. I thought the same thing. I was like, I know they didn't win, but you got to give Grubauer this Davy Jones hat. He has more than earned it in this game. Sergeant Pickles, we got studs and duds here. Duds, Oleksiak giraffe problems, shot suppression down the drain. WTF is the point of pulling the goalie twice. I mean, technically you're still in it. You could get 2 goals. Like, I understand, like, analytically the idea of doing it. But then if that's the case, if you're going off the analytics and you're going to pull Grubauer twice, why'd you wait till there was a minute and a half left to pull him the first time? right? You had an offensive zone faceoff with 3 minutes left. You could have pulled him then, or at least had him ready to go in that situation. So yeah, I didn't think that whole situation, the last 5 minutes of the game, I felt like were pretty mismanaged from Dave Haxtell, and I've been his defender at times, the lone defender, but on this one, I think he made wrong calls there. Um, and then studs from Sergeant Pickles. Grubauer played his heart out. Lars, fleeing meatballs. Dunn made a good D play nearly every shift. Yeah, Dunn has been quietly playing pretty good. I mean, he has had issues, and like I highlighted one last game, but for the most part, Dunn has really turned his season around. He has been playing really, really well. And then, yeah, Adam Larson, let's get him on the power play. Let's go. He actually shoots the puck from the point. Like, come on, that's what the power play needs, especially the second unit. I've been calling for it for a little while now, but like I really, really, really want to see that. Jules, the guys could have gotten comfortable at the level they were playing, so hopefully this pushes them to improve. Agreed. I think, yeah, I 1000% agree. Lindsay, Lars, Dunn, and Grubauer, undisputed three studs. I agree. I think they were probably the best players. I don't think any forward for the Kraken stood out for me in any positive way, to be honest. George, 3-game skid heading into Florida, Tampa, and Carolina on the road. Not ideal. We talked about this last time. They're a road team. They should be fine, but they're not. They don't look it. Florida, they gave us problems in that last game. Again, though, that was a weirdly officiated game. I still have confidence in them. Tampa is not the Tampa of years past, but they're still a tough team. Carolina, all along, I've been saying that one's just going to be rough. It's just I'm struggling to see a silver lining going into the Carolina game. But the other two, I see ways of them winning, and also I just don't think that I think that this Kraken team is good enough to just not lose 6 straight. Like I just don't think that they would. They seem better than that. Krakenhawk, where did the scoring go? I don't know. Ask the new lineup, but it was not there tonight. That is for sure. Aaron, the numbers have gone way down. Also, this team's pretty bad now. Yeah, the offense was just weird about this. Weird about this game. I just don't even know. Grade 8 is getting close to 800. We'll pass Gretzky as the greatest goal scorer ever from Devin there. It's definitely looking like that is going to be a possibility. Absolutely insane. I still need to see him in person. How have I gone like his whole career without seeing him in person? I don't know. Not mad about the OV goal. The fans willed it all from Ty. Boy, were they excited for that. I've never seen a team so eager to have their guys sent out there with an empty net to try to get him as many empty net goals as possible. And the other night, he actually had 2 empty net goals in the same game. So they're definitely doing everything they can to try to pad that goal number, that goal total for him as he closes in on 800 and then moving forward. Let's see. Blue Frost, can we investigate the refs for biasing against us? Seriously, just investigate Florida and Washington now for bribing the refs or something. Like I said, they just needed, in this one, they just needed to call the game consistently. They did not call this game consistently at all. Things that were penalties at some points were not penalties later, and vice versa. It was a poorly officiated game. Sergeant Pickles, I'm genuinely pissed at Hack for pulling the goalie twice. Like I said, if it had happened, if the first pull was earlier, it's okay. But yeah, I always hated when they pull a goalie. I would rather have a 1-2 score than this, a 1-4 from Jules. I understand pulling them, at least certainly for the first time. I agree with that one. You could argue so late about doing it when you're down by 2. Then I would understand that argument. Even though like I said, analytics, everything tells you that that's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. Tina, speaking of Hack, should he have challenged the Gord holding penalty? I missed a bit of the game earlier and wasn't sure if he'd already used it potentially. He had not used his challenge previously, but you're not allowed to challenge penalties. Or at least I don't think you are. And so that would be the situation there. Let's see. Tank for Bedard. No, this team's still too good. Yeah, Shoeshine confirming can't challenge a penalty. Let's see. Blue Frost pointing out wasn't even a penalty. The guy fell on his stick. It certainly wasn't a holding penalty. That is for sure. Like I said, there might have been something there from Geeky, a slash or a hook or something on the hands, but Gord did nothing, and I still don't know where the phantom hold call comes from. Let's see. Stratic pointing out that the fact that Oleksiak served a match penalty might cut down on any suspension, may be reduced by a game. 1,000% agree. Like I said, they just decide all of this. Certainly on these where it's like, he didn't just like seemingly target this guy out of nowhere. The play was still relatively close by. He had kind of committed to checking him before the player had pushed the puck past him. All of those things. The intent to injure was not obvious, if there at all. I don't believe it was. The Department of Player Safety, sorry for bumping the mic. Department of Player Safety, like I said, they're just going to look at his last couple last couple seasons. Have we suspended him? No. All right, forget about it, or give him a game. Like, that's just what it is. There's a direct correlation between what you've done recently and what they give you now. I haven't agreed with that all the time. I think that works in a situation like this. There have been other times where guys have done something really egregious, and because they hadn't done anything in the previous 2 seasons, they just don't really get punished for it. I think you should always be punishing for the merit of the action that occurred. But that's it's just the way it is. Let's see. Dalek, blue line is definitely the Kraken #1 priority. Someone needs to man it, because the guys just lose puck battles in our own zone way too much, and it leads to avoidable dumb penalties almost 90% of the time. That is, I totally agree with you, Dalek, on this one. The team doesn't know how to play in front of Grubauer, like immediately in front of him. They always let guys either behind them or out muscle them in front of the crease. Like I said, Jamie Oleksiak gets out muscled in the crease so much. Why? There's no reason. He outweighs everybody. He's a big, strong man. Like, just use that. The other one is that, yes, a lot of their penalties, even just stuff like Lars had a potential clear in the third period. They just don't handle the puck well when they're in their own zone, or when they're perceiving pressure. Whether that pressure is really there or not, they perceive a lot of immediate pressure on themselves a lot, and then they rush to try to make things happen. Whether that's them rushing to try to stop a chance for the opposing team, which is what happened with Lars's penalty, or it's them rushing and creating a turnover, or not being able to clear the puck, or not being able to really start a good push out of their own zone, because they perceive more pressure on them than there actually is. I just think that they need to calm themselves down a little bit when certain situations are developing around them. And I know this is super easy for me to sit here and say, thousands of miles away and not playing in the NHL, but a lot of other defensemen in the NHL managed to do that. And I know that these guys are capable of doing it, because this was a problem at the beginning of the year, and then they worked on it and they were fine for a very long stretch of time. We were not talking about discipline being a problem for them. We were not talking about them feeling pressured or rushed in the defensive zone and making mistakes or letting guys get behind them. They had really cleaned up all of that stuff. And I don't know what happened that changed that, but they need to go, get back to the drawing board. It is something, discipline, all of that stuff is stuff that you have to actively work on all the time. Anytime you're not focusing on it, it has a habit of creeping its way back into your game. The Kraken just need to get back to working on it. CR Bud, sorry, definitely becoming disenchanted with a couple of our blue liners. Lots of stuff here about that there. Let's see. Scoring isn't all that great lately, though, too, from Stratic. Agreed. The offense needs a shakeup. Like I said, we've been talking about that. Give us the killer bees. Give us something. Gord up in the, flip Gord and Wenberg, something. Just do something. Daniel, Kraken are 2-1-0 versus the Panthers, and honestly, we were 2-1-0 versus the Caps and 2-0 against the Canadians, so my hopes are not high. It's all just regression to the mean, I guess. Look, it makes sense, right? That we would kind of roughly have 500 records, given we lost a ton of games last season and we've been winning a lot of games this year. It makes sense then for our lifetime records against teams, they would be around 500. Grubauer, 944 save percentage tonight. I don't know if that is his best ever with the Kraken, but it feels like a top 3 performance. I agree with you, Brian. I think this game for him is going to get lost, because the rest of the game for the Kraken was really, really bad and really, really poor. And already I think we're all in the same boat of trying to forget about it. But Philip Grubauer had an incredible performance, and I agree with you. I don't know about where the numbers lie, but this was one of the best games Philip Grubauer has ever had as a Kraken. There was maybe 1 or 2 games that he played like this kind of last year, maybe later in the year when he picked up some shutouts. But yeah, I mean, this was a fantastic game. A goalie deserves to get a win when they put up a performance like he did tonight. The team just wasn't there with him. Sergeant Pickles, I think I have whatever RJ has. Been a hot tea and soup diet last few days. Sorry to hear that, Sergeant Pickles, and obviously wishing both you and RJ um, get well soon wishes. But yeah, I mean, I know down here there's like a chess thing kind of going around too. So wouldn't surprise me given how connected these big cities are. If there's something similar going on up there as well. Blue Frost, excuse me. Sorry. PK looking a lot better with Geeky, to be honest. The goal they let in was pretty fluky bounce. Agreed. It was a weird bounce. You're killing off a 5-minute major. The fact that you only gave up the one is pretty impressive when you got Ovechkin out there for 5 full minutes. And I agree. I really think Geeky is making the difference there. I think Geeky has been the key to the PK, and that stretch of games where they were brutal and they were killing 42%. Geeky was out of it for most of that stretch of time. So I think Morgan Geeky is the key to the PK, and that's why Morgan Geeky needs to stay in the lineup if possible. Let's see. To be fair, watching, I mix up Geeky and Gord when watching it to the refs. Yeah, I know it's tough when they've got they've got the sevens there, and I think that's what happened with the refs. They heard Gord is our best penalty killer. Lol, just kidding. I don't want to pile on the officiating for Rebecca there. I thought it too. I was like, oh, Gord, really? Let's see. Yeah, Jake with the PK looked better for sure. Let's see. I don't know that the refs are totally just going after Seattle for having a win streak, Blue Frost, but it is. I think we're probably all making too much of it just because we've had 2 bad officiating games so close together, and they've coincided with like the only 3-game losing streak we've had this year, or the second one. I think that we might have at the beginning of the year, but I think it seems worse than it is right now, but it's just never fun watching a game when the officiating is so whacked out a little bit. Um, let's see. Uh, at the end of the day, you just have to kill the penalties, as they say from Rebecca. Agreed. At some point, you do, especially if you're going to be taking so many on yourselves. Like, I felt like this game was more so. I know there was the Gord penalty, but I felt like it was more so them not calling things for the Capitals than them over calling things on the Kraken. You know what I mean? And honestly, having watched the Kraken for this last little bit, I understand it. I mean, the Kraken take a ton of penalties. Like, we all know that. How about we trade for Timo Meier to help with our scoring from Shoeshot? He would definitely help with our scoring. I've been seeing a lot of talk on the Discords, on Twitter, about the idea of the Kraken making a trade, and we can talk about this on the next deep dive maybe. But I just the problem with them being buyers before a trade deadline is, what do you give up? Because you're still trying to build out a farm system. You're still trying to build out a prospect pool. You've weaponized your cap space really well, right? I mean, you made the best trade anyone's going to make all season long when you got Oliver Bjorkstrand for what, a 4th or something. So that was your weaponizing of cap space, taking advantage of another team's rough situation, and you basically steal a fantastic player. I know he hasn't scored a bunch of goals so far this season, but we all know that he's played very, very well for them, and a lot of that was just him being unlucky. So when it comes to them, acquiring certainly a big name like a Timo Meier, or people have been throwing around, Erik Karlsson, it's a different situation with the contract and stuff, but a Jacob Chikrin from Arizona, the defenseman there. When it comes to them acquiring a big name like that, I mean, you'd be talking about a team wanting they'd be, obviously Shane Wright's probably off the table, but they would definitely ask for him just because he's your most recent first round pick. They would want your first round pick this next year. And if it's not Shane Wright, then they'd want a package of like Riker Evans, Ty Nelson, and a first for Jacob Chikrin. That makes zero sense for the Kraken to do. Like, yes, you get a better blue liner right now, but you have, you're really thin in the pipeline for defensemen as is. You trade your 2 best defensive prospects and a first for somebody. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And when it comes to like a Timo Meier trade, it would be something similar too. They'd want like a Riker Evans or a Shane Wright or something, in addition to a first, in addition to probably a second the year after that. And you're having to make some cap adjustments too, because you've got to bring in the bigger contract there. I just don't think it makes sense for them. I just don't. And I think, look, this team, they've looked like a playoff team through most of this year. I think that's a little ahead of schedule for them, based on everything that we were talking about, based on Ron Francis's window for competitiveness. I think the best thing for them is just to stand pat. I think if you're looking like a playoff team, don't be sellers again. I think that's a totally fine thing to do. But I think when it comes to making deals, you can make smaller deals, shore up depth at the bottom, something like that. Give up some mid-round picks if you really feel like you've got a chance this year. But I don't want to see them make any sort of big move when they just haven't had time to acquire prospects or bring people in or build out that pipeline, because that is how you go to cap friendly. Look at the term left on all of these contracts on this team. It's not much for a lot of these guys, and you're gonna need people to bring up to fill in those roles, and you don't want them just to be league minimum guys. You know what I mean? Like whoever you can scrounge up in free agency. If you want it to be free agency at all. I mean, there's a long history of the free agent deals not really paying off in the long run either. So um, I just think that that's the way to kind of play it for the Kraken. Is it's just not the time to buy. Um, Let's see, Stratic. Yeah, I'm talking mostly about the power play time for Sprung and the minutes for the fourth line as a whole. Trailing most of the game, I would have been fine with the fourth line under 10 minutes tonight. I understand that, and I do to some extent agree with that, Stratic. I think part of it is the fourth line has been a source of offense for them this season, so I understand them, kind of wanted to keep their minutes out there. Geeky scored some big goals, Sprung scored some big goals for them. But yes, in general, you'd want to see guys get more ice time. I will say I was happy to see. I'm looking at it right now. Matty Beniers, 19 minutes. I like to see that. I like that they're playing him. 17% in the faceoff circle for Matty Beniers. So maybe he shouldn't have been taking faceoffs as much as he was, but I liked that. Let's see. Some more love to get that killer bees going. Jay's back here in chat reminding everybody. Let's see. Late to the stream. Where's RJ? Did he travel with the team? No, RJ is just not feeling well and wasn't able to make this one. So as Ty says, yes, RJ is on IR, unfortunately. Um, Stratic team needs quintuple Bs to turn things around. Uh, okay, here we go. Burakovsky, Beniers, Bjorkstrand up top with Borgen and Bowie on D. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Oh man. Sorry to dip out early. We've got to get some rest. Have a good night, all from Sergeant Pickles. Good night, Sergeant Pickles. Have a good one. Rock Todd, taking my daughter to our first ever Kraken game versus the Panthers. Any tips for when we can show up for pregame 4 rows from ice? So pregame skate. I think most arenas open an hour and a half before the game, and then pregame skate is, and totally correct me if I'm wrong here, but pregame skate is usually what, a half an hour before puck drop, 45 minutes before puck drop. Why, like, this is something I should know. I'm always like around for it whenever I go to a game, and I'm totally spacing now, put on the spot, but it's somewhere in that window. So yeah, if you show up an hour early to the game, you can check things out, walk the arena. I don't know if you've ever like been there or what the situation is, and check out the team store, all that kind of stuff, and then you'll know when warm ups start and everything. You'll be able to be down there, and you and your daughter should be able to have a good time. I really hope you have a good time. Rebecca, Dylan, to enable your overwatching agenda, Caps are in Anaheim on March 1st, and there's no Kraken game. Circle that one on your calendar. This is a good point. I will have to look into that, especially because Ducks tickets, believe it or not, everybody, Anaheim Ducks tickets are very affordable right now. So appreciate that one, Rebecca. Blue Frost, watching games has been frustrating as F lately. Several games of inconsistent officiating that is clearly in favor of the other team. Defensive and offensive breakdown. November's team got kidnapped. Look, I definitely agree with that one. Blue Frost as well here. Looking at blue line options, maybe Luke Shen with the 850 cap hit. Going to be UFA at the end of the year. Mainly looking at big dudes. Luke Shen would be an option. I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in Luke Shen. Should they decide to move him. So I don't know what the bidding could, I mean, defensemen at the trade deadline, bidding gets weird sometimes. It really, really does. So, if the price makes sense, if the price rises above, I mean, I don't even know that I want them spending a second round pick to add to this team for a rental. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know that they're in the spot to kind of do that. I just don't. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm a buzzkill for all of it. I know it is a lot of fun to speculate on trades, but I just think looking at this team, I guess you got 3 second round picks, so if you wanna spend one of them to try to acquire somebody, I would say I guess you could, but, yeah, it's just they're just in a weird situation as they're new and they're building up their team and they're building up their organization as a whole. It's a lot of factors Ron Francis has to take into play that most other general managers don't. You know what I mean? It becomes a sticky situation there. Let's see. Rebecca, insert meme of we have a big dude at home with a picture of Oleksiak. I like that one. Besser from Canucks to Kraken, part of the Killer Bees from Devon. That would be an interesting one. I wonder if that would kind of kickstart his offense a little bit more, change of scenery. Let's see. Do you think they can get any blue line upgrades? I think that they could find a blue line upgrade. I just don't know that it'll be like a anything, kind of big and sexy. But I think that there's a possibility for that. It's also possible at any point too that they might do a hockey trade, a one for one, or they just if they really feel like one of these blue liners is just not working, they just send them somewhere for someone else's blue liner is just not working, and you hope that the change of scenery happens. Um, but I don't know. I don't know who. To be honest, I don't know who comes out of the lineup, and that's part of the problem. Like, let's say you bring in Luke Chen, who comes out of the lineup? Borgen's played pretty good this year. Carson Soucy's doing okay, and again, he himself is a rental. So maybe if you ship out Soucy, then you bring in a rental of your own. It's kind of the same situation, but you could essentially do a hockey trade with like an in between party. You trade Soucy for a second. You trade a second for Luke Shen. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I don't know because Alexiak's got term, Larson's got term, Vince Dunn's an RFA. You're still trying to figure out long term what you want to do with him. Justin Schultz has a little bit of term, and I think has been the only effective piece on the power play for you on the back end. It's an interesting conundrum. I think we definitely need to talk about this on the deep dive. The more we've been talking about it here, I think we at RJ needed to tackle it there. Um, Let's see. I could see more depth on the PK because we saw the PK with Geeky missing. Yeah, I think you could add more to the PK as well. Like I said, depth forwards, I could totally see an addition there at the deadline. Some bottom six kind of guy, for sure. Bo Horvat would fit nicely from Devon. You don't need the center depth would be the one thing with Bo Horvat, so you'd have to flex somebody more full time, and that's even before we even begin to think about the idea of Shane Wright coming back and joining the team full time. So I don't know that Bo Horvat would make a lot of sense for the Kraken. Um, Let's see, Jay with the awesome reminder for everybody like the stream. Stratic, any trade for Chikrin would have to be contingent on an extension, and I don't know why you do that at this point. I think there are theoretically fair trades for him that might work, but in reality, unlikely. I agree. If you're giving up anything substantial for Chikrin, you want to lock him in, and if you're Chikrin, why would you, unless you really like the team you're going to, and they are offering you a lot of money, why would you do that? Because you're gonna command such a price tag being a young, really good defenseman on the open market soon. Like, doesn't make any sense. Um, let's see. Honestly, just try to get there when doors open. You'll have plenty of time to get snacks, explore the arena, and be in your seats for warmies from Shoeshine there. I agree. I mean, if you got work, whatever it is, school in this case, I don't know how old your daughter is, all that stuff. Like, you got to factor all of it in. But um, I always like going, sooner rather than later and making more of a day of it if possible. Let's see. And you're going to the Florida one, right, Rock Todd? So you've got to drive out to the swamp too. So you might as well. It's not like there's like, life around the arena in Florida. So to go explore, shopping, food, all that kind of stuff. It's a swamp. Maybe go see a gator. um, Let's see. Stream is really far behind the chat. I'm down here at the bottom. I think I did an okay job catching up, Blue Frost. It's hard on a night like tonight when um only one person here. Shoeshine, here's how I look at it. It's just as damaging to your prospect system to have a happy to be there postseason visit and spend some assets in order to try to go on a run in the playoffs. I don't know. I think when it comes to all of this, we got to just trust Ron's overall vision, right? And I know that that probably sounds like a cop out, and in some ways it is. But I think when Ron originally got there, and go back to the expansion draft and those first interviews he was doing, he talked about a 3 to 5 year plan, and I think that this team has greatly accelerated that. I think there was a push from ownership, there was a push from the fan base to definitely be better than they were last year. I don't think anybody expected them to be as bad as they were last year. And so that's where you see, very, very specific and targeted acquisitions like Oliver Bjorkstrand, like signing Andre Burakovsky to deals that are not, or bringing in a contract that isn't really bad. These are not deals that are going to take them term wise to when they're, really fallen off the age curve. Um, and they don't cost a ton of money, but they were enough to shore up this team, and they really made a huge difference for it. But the bottom line is, you're looking at having team control for the next 7 years of Matty Beniers and the next 9 years of Shane Wright, kind of. Like, that's a lot of time that you have with the two most important things that you could ever have for as a franchise, which is two just stud guys down the middle. And I think that that's a big deal, and I think that that's something that adjusts what your overall plan is. And again, your competitive window with those two players who are going to be your franchise cornerstones and are going to be your best players in a year or two, um, doesn't necessitate going for it now. It would say save those assets for later. Draft well, have good prospects that then you could trade for somebody, next season or the year after that when it's really time to be pushing and competing. I still think, we've been talking a lot about the blue line. I don't think that this blue line could survive a playoff series. I just don't. I think that there's still questions around goaltending, right? Grubauer had a fantastic performance tonight. Does Grubauer survive a playoff series? Does Martin Jones survive a playoff series? These are questions that I still have. And these were questions that were starting to pop up while they were still winning games, right? Like, we talked about this all along. The discipline problem. If they can't figure out the discipline problem, there's no way. I mean, yes, they're not going to call as much in the playoffs because that's just the way playoff officiating works. But I don't know. I think it feels too soon to me. I'm sorry. Um, let's see. Yeah, some more talk around Horvat there. Blue Frost. It's going to be tough for Shane Wright to get time just because the team is projected to make the playoffs. Agreed. That certainly hurts everything. Like I said, I really don't think the team was supposed to be this good, at least not this early in the season. I think they probably thought they had a good chance at making the playoffs over the course of a season, but like with a second half push. I don't think they were expecting to be, fighting for the top of the division in November. And so I think that also mucked with the Shane Wright timeline a little bit there. Ty, I've changed my phone wallpaper back after tonight. I put the same one from last season on, and the wheels have come off. My bad. It's fixed, lol. Okay, see, it was all just Ty's fault, everybody. Ty, you might as well have just gone to the game. No, I'm just kidding. We'll definitely see, though, if that fixes things next game. So what happens if they don't make any moves at the deadline and end up slipping out of the playoffs? Then you get a better draft pick. I think most of us, and I won't speak for you, but most of us talked about at the beginning of the year was we just wanted to be competitive later into the year. We didn't want to be out of it by Thanksgiving the way we were last season. But again, if I don't feel that this team is capable of winning a Stanley Cup, if you're not capable of winning a Stanley Cup, it makes no sense to kind of nuke your future for a run that's destined to fail. I mean, there's plenty of examples of that around the NHL right now that you can look at, and there are a lot of franchises that are stuck as they're teams that make the playoffs, they don't go anywhere in the playoffs, and they have no future, right? They don't have good prospects, they don't have anything to fall back on, and they're just stuck in this middle ground that is the worst place to be. The Calgary Flames of the 2010s, right? Or the late aughts and the early 2010s, where they were like the 8th seed every year, and they get bounced in the first round, and they were just never able to draft top talent because they were too good to draft top talent, but they weren't good enough to ever actually do anything. And it's just, if you stay in that spot too long, it just wrecks your franchise. It really, really does, because you still end up losing. You get disinterested fans because you're not winning, and you're not ever able to take advantage of finding young top players that you can take advantage of their ELCs, their cheaper contracts, the team control, having them in their prime scoring years and stuff. And so I just don't want the team to start making moves that are going to put them in that sort of scenario. And that's just my thoughts on it. I won't speak for RJ, but I'm pretty sure he's probably in the close to the same boat there. Um, uh, at this point, it's pretty imperative that Seattle do get to the playoffs. I don't think so. I think they just needed to be competitive. I think by year 3 they needed to be a playoff team, but that's just my opinion. Blue Frost. Wild tied up with Oilers. Operation Pacific Division Sting is back on track tonight. Can still be a wash for the division. Good update there from Striatic. Thank you very much. Edward with the trust Ron Francis. Absurdly sane with it, for sure. Nidal enjoyed this edition of Dylan gives a stern talk to the Seattle Kraken, sponsored by Queen Anne Beer Hall. Good thing we know the team is always listening for Rebecca there. Good night, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us. Joshua. Okay, so Joshua, awesome member of the ECH community, one of our patrons and everything. I hope you enjoyed the game despite everything, Joshua. I know you and your son were there for this one. Joshua, I'm here. I'll have to watch the playback as we were stuck in the garage with no service. It's all on me, apparently. I'm the new DC-based tank commander. Sorry, Ty, lol. Oh, I felt so bad for you, Joshua. I know how much you've been looking forward to this one. Yeah, it was just a rough game. Really, really, really sorry for you and your boy there. Let's see. I hope you still managed to have a good time. I really do. Uh, let's see. Yeah, I take a lottery pick over a quick first round exit from Shoeshine there. Um, you don't want to be the Canucks from Bryce there. Yeah, Canucks are kind of stuck in that same situation themselves right now. It's a rough place to be. You can be there this year because it's like an in between year for you. But anytime you start really hanging around there for a longer period of time, it becomes a problem. Um, the early access is becoming a double-edged sword quickly from Blue Frost. I would definitely agree with that. I think that's where we're at for sure. A Jules Mana Pacific wash would be interesting. Then we have Sharks versus Ducks in the corner. Yeah, that's going to be interesting too. Joshua, we had a great time. Awesome. Really, really glad to hear that. Really, really happy for you. I mean that. Jules' main goal is still for the Kraken to be 5th or above in the Pacific Division, so I'm doing good right now. Totally agree. Blue Frost, if they don't make the playoffs, then people are going to remember this season as a choke collapse instead of a meaningful improvement. I think that will be the initial, because it's going to feel very disappointing after this hot start. I think that'll be the initial reaction, but I don't know if the following season they make the playoffs and everything's fine and they win a playoff series and you got Shane Wright in there and he looks good and Beniers is one of the top players in the NHL. I think time will heal that wound, and looking at it with a more historical context will also help, and it'll look like, oh, they were just, it was a progression. I think that's what would happen. Generally, that's what happens. But yes, as Light here says at the bottom, I'm a relatively new fan of hockey, but I still don't agree with a lot of the doom and gloom that's been going around with these last 3 losses. Still plenty of season to go. 1,000%. I mean, the Kraken are not out of a playoff spot. There's, you lost 3, but heck, you won. You had a 5-game win streak. You had a 7-game win streak not that long ago. This team is still really, really good. They're in a bad division, so that definitely helps when it comes to looking towards making the playoffs. Still 3 points ahead of Edmonton, who's 4th in the division. You got a game in hand on them. You're still one of the few teams that's got a positive goal differential in this division. You're still 8-2-1 on the road. Like, that's still fantastic. So yeah, you're 7-3 in your last 10. That's better than anybody. That's tied with Vancouver for best in the division. So I do think that, yes, we need to put all of this in context, and that it isn't bad. The Kraken are not choking yet or at all, really. I think they're in an okay spot. They just have some stuff they need to clean up. Got to clean up the defensive issues. Got to clean up the discipline issues. We've been saying that even during their wins this season. That's just, there's always something to work on. But thanks for coming in, Light, and dropping that comment, because I very much agree with it. Shoeshine also there. They had 60 points last season. They would have to be apocalyptically bad from here on out to not be seen as a large improvement on last year. I do agree with you, Blue Frost, that the early success has set the bar a little bit higher for people. I do agree with that sentiment, but I still think if they finish fourth in the division and they miss the playoffs by a couple points, I don't think that it'll be a disaster, and I don't think it'll be something that we're all gonna really like be like, oh man, they blew it. Like I just don't get that feeling. I don't get that sense from people. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Coming up here on the end of the hour. Um, I'll do a quick last call on anything, but yeah, overall it was it wasn't the best game for the Kraken. It's definitely for sure. Discipline issues, inconsistent officiating got us again. That's not the one, something in the Kraken's control, but it's not ever something that you want to see. And yeah, it's just it is what it is. These games happen. On to the next one. On to Florida. Historically, we're pretty good against Florida. Um, I still think that there's a lot of stuff to be looking forward to in that Florida game. I'm really just interested to see what Hackstall does to maybe shake things up offensively, try to get the offense going, because it was clear that the line combinations tonight weren't it. We've been through this before though. Generally, they do a good job of figuring that out, and then once they find something, you know, the offense gets on a little bit of a tear and a little bit of a heater, and we can make things happen. So I got to think that that's just around the corner for them once they hit on that next, combination of guys that they want. And I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am. Let's see. Wasn't a horrible game from Joshua. Yeah, I mean it wasn't their best game. Grubauer played a fantastic game. Like that was a fantastic game from Grubauer. I'm really happy you got to see that performance from Grubauer because that was really, really special what he was able to do. Um, it was just, yeah, it's just the way it is. Some games just happen like this. It's hockey. Shushan down there agreeing we lost a 2-1 game. Don't view empty net goals as a real part of the results. I think that's a very healthy way of looking at it. And again, those goals against, they were issues. And my boy Larson with the goal. Let's go. Let's go. Put him on the power play. Come on. Ty, for next week's Red Glare, Chara says Vancouver was practicing hoisting the cup before game 7. I just saw that. I saw that earlier tonight. Yes, I definitely want to talk about that. I will say to the patrons out there, Red Glare up in the air right now, just because RJ's out. I know we're supposed to be the mailbag segment one and or episode, and you guys sent in great questions. I love the questions that we got. So definitely work something out with that and try to get it out as soon as possible. Thanks, Kitty B Kraken. Thanks, Jay, for the kind words there. Really appreciate going through this with everybody. And then we'll finish it off here with Joshua because at the game, best view of any of us. It was 1-2 until the empty netters and the first two Caps goals half suspect. The Kraken will turn this around and start a new win streak in no time. And I agree with you, Joshua. I think a lot of us agree with you, and I think that is the perfect way to end this Emerald City Hockey post game live presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall. We do have for realsies this time, promise everybody some big time news about things coming up soon at Queen Anne Beer Hall. We will be talking about in the very, very short future. I just want to wait for RJ to be around so we can kind of announce it together and everything. But big news involving me maybe being up there, getting to see that place for the first time, maybe, something like that. I don't know. That's the best best tease I can give. Thanks for the well wishes in there for RJ as well. Edward and Absurdly Sane. Give my girl Afra some ear scritches from Auntie. I will for sure. She's never up here for these 4 o'clock games on the West Coast. She's always busy eating dinner when I come to start these. So, but I'll definitely make that happen in a little bit. Thanks everybody for joining us for this one, and we will see you all next time.